Mr. Lall, good having you. Thanks so much for joining in. There's just so much of talk around how some Indian companies might get impacted because of supply chain disruptions in China due to coronavirus. Can you tell us a bit about what is happening to Dixon, if at all, and what could happen if the situation doesn't get resolved?
So we are in very close coordination with our supply chain partners in China. I can see the things slowly but surely returning back to normal. Some of our shipments have already started and they've got onto the high seas. So I think that's a positive. Now in Dixon's case specifically, because the Chinese New Year, it started around 20th of Jan, we had preponed our consignments and we had our pipeline fairly aligned. So we are fine in February and March. However, there has been some hit. So there is a hit and some production has been impacted in a couple of verticals. I feel February, March, there will be a small impact. But I think from April onwards, because the shipments have started and our suppliers are informing us that they're getting back to a better situation, there would be small hit here and there, but I think we'll be okay. That's what I feel.
So the feeling is, and the hope is that you will be okay. You are seeing some signs of a revival. I just want to put the best case and the worst case scenario, Mr. Lall. Let's talk about the best case scenario first. You mentioned that some of your shipments are already on the high seas. I'm believing these are inward shipments. So how soon do they reach you, and do they ensure that your capabilities of production stay normalized immediately beyond March, or could that take a bit longer?
So there will be some impact. I mean, that's what I feel. Now, to give it a number is slightly difficult, but it's not a situation of a calamity. That's what I'm trying to put forward. So on the number side, there can be some impact of 3 to 5%. That's what I feel in this particular quarter. But I feel that from April onwards, from next quarter, it's going to normalize to a large extent. At the most, certain key components, we'll have to do it by air. So there can be a slightly higher logistics cost. That's all.
It's not too high a differential, air versus the shipping for products that you would need?
No. So these are not going to be the heavier components. These are going to be the normal components. There would be a difference, but not a humongous difference.
And that's all that you need per se if you really need to transport things by air. The other things should be available easily for you.
They're kind of getting aligned.
Kind of getting aligned. Okay. Now, that's the good part. Mr. Lall, just wondering, I mean, I'm trying to play the devil's advocate. What if the situation doesn't resolve? You may get your current shipments, but what if this extends itself? In which case, what gets impacted? Because a lot of the reason why I ask this to you is because a lot of rumors fly around about how certain companies might not get X component, Y component, and then companies have to come in and clarify that they do not get impacted because of this, because it was just a figment of somebody's imagination. So can you clarify for us, what is it that you get from China? And if it doesn't come, what kind of impact could come in? Worst case scenario.
There is a significant dependence on China for our components and raw material sourcing across our verticals. So let's say in lighting, we import almost 35 to 40% of our bill of material. The maximum imports content is in televisions, which is almost 70-75%. In the case of washing machines, again, 35 to 40%. So that's the percentage. So in case the situation gets delayed in normalizing, and then of course there is an impact. However, we are in close coordination. It's our team that's continuously talking to our partners there. So I can sense in the last 3-4 days that it is getting back to a better kind of situation. So that's the reason I'm sounding more confident.
Yeah, and I hope that it's actually even better than what you think. Mr. Lall, just wondering though, are there any alternate destinations from which near-term supplies can come in if you need them?
So in certain categories, we are localizing the components. And I think that will help. That will help, definitely. And I think the teams and the engineering teams are working hard to come up with the alternate local sourcing. So that will bridge the gaps.
Okay. One final question from mine, Mr. Lall. You mentioned at the start that if at all you have to get in through air, then there could be some excess cost, and this quarter could see an impact of about 3 to 5% and not more. Did I hear you correctly that for the Jan to March quarter, you could have an impact of about 5% on top line growth as a result of the disruptions that have already taken place thus far?
Yeah, that's possible. That's the situation. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we wish that it doesn't worsen than that, and we do wish that things actually resolve even more quicker than what you envisage, Mr. Lall. But thanks so much for being so candid today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.